Guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe. I hope everything's good wherever you are. I hope everything's safe wherever you are. I hope you guys are well. I hope you guys are staying safe and everything's good at your end. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, share the video as always, guys. Eddie Hearn, Mr. Eddie Hearn has said that Canelo Alvarez will fight Dmitry Bivol in a fight in May in 2023. So it looks like Canelo Alvarez will look to fight Dmitry Bivol again. I don't think Canelo Alvarez will not look to avenge that loss. I think it will. I just think he wanted to have the Golovkin fight. There was probably a lot of pressure from DAZN to, for him to have that fight with someone like Gennady Golovkin, because it'll help them grow as a business with subscribers and the revenue that they'll generate from that particular fight. So I can understand why they were pushing for the Gennady Golovkin fight. And I think they also know that the Bivol, if they have the Bivol fight first and he loses to Bivol, because now the Bivol fight is risky, what will happen is that Gennady Golovkin fight is dead. So they're thinking that if we're going to pay Canelo Alvarez the money that we're going to pay him, why don't we get 3 big fights out of him? And Canelo fights 2 times this year, fights Gennady and fights Bivol. Then next May fights Dmitry Bivol, because there's no point of having that fight in December and having a nothing fight. The reason why they were thinking of a nothing fight is because they thought that he'd beat Bivol and he'll beat Golovkin. And then he'd fight somebody in December and that'd be the contract over. But now I think Canelo understands that these level of fights, he needs 2 fights a year. He can't do what he did with Smith, Billy Joe and Caleb Plant, because these are much, much better fighters. So, he's going to, in my opinion, fight Dmitry Bivol in May next year. And that, for me, is probably the common sense. I think the best business move Canelo could have made. I think it makes a lot of sense. I think, he could get his confidence back if he puts in a good performance against Gennady Golovkin. But also, he's not going into an easy fight. He's going into a fight where he's going to be tested. Irrespective of what you guys say about, him picking Gennady Golovkin and Golovkin is 40 or whatever, Gennady Golovkin is still a very dangerous fight for Canelo Alvarez. Even at this point, Gennady Golovkin is very, very dangerous. I actually think him looking to rematch Bivol in 2023 is probably the best thing for him. Canelo Alvarez said that, he came into that fight. He will definitely come into that rematch with Bivol in a physical, much better condition. Now, I want to talk a little bit about that. Those comments that he made about being in a physical, better condition. He needs to be, because his stamina doesn't seem to be great. And his stamina has never been great. Let's be brutally honest. His stamina has always been an issue, and it's something that is an issue when he's been put under pressure. It seems like his stamina is not the greatest. He looks at times in fights that he's gassed. And Bivol, and the thing is with Bivol was, in my opinion, very cautious. The reason why he was cautious, I think he was, I wouldn't say afraid of Canelo Alvarez, but I think in the back of his mind, he knew the threat of Canelo Alvarez. And I think that was the reason why he was cautious. He didn't want to get caught. But now he's felt Canelo's power. I think in the rematch, you're going to see him open up a lot more. So Canelo's going to have to be in very good condition, because Canelo might have to take a lot more in the rematch, because Bivol might open up. If Bivol opens up more, that might give Canelo more of a chance of also landing more shots. But at the end of the day, Bivol now is going to be a lot more aggressive, because he's felt his power and he knows that Canelo, he can get to Canelo. And he may also feel that I can handle this guy's shots. But Canelo, for me, has to come in, and I feel he has to be able to outwork him. He needs to throw more shots. He needs to throw more punches. He needs to get in range and throw more combination punches, not just loaded up power shots, loading up on one big shot. That's not going to work against Bivol. In the Golovkin fight, I'm not going to say, I actually think he needs to fight the same way against Golovkin. I don't think he can fight the way he did against Billy Joe, Caleb Plant, because he's not going to be able to load up on big shots against Golovkin. Golovkin's got a granite chin. So what he needs to do, he needs to imitate what he would do in the Bivol fight and use Golovkin as practice to look to box better and throw more punches, throw more combinations, be more active. Because even against Golovkin, that might not work. He may get outworked by Golovkin like he did in the first fight. If he does that against Golovkin, if he just looks to load up on big shots, Golovkin might walk through him and he might outwork him again. So the point is, I think Canelo Alvarez needs to do what he would do against Bivol with Golovkin as practice. That's what I think. I think he needs to be more active. He needs to throw more punches in bunches, which he can do. See, Canelo Alvarez, I'm not saying he's the fastest fighter, but he has got fast hands and he can throw punches in bunches, which has disappeared. He is loading up on big shots. He's loading up on shots, and that's making it easy for me to outbox him. Because if you're loading up on big shots, you're basically coming forward looking to take the guy out. You're not really looking there to outwork the guy and outbox him. Hence why some of the judges, some of the commentators have Canelo losing some of the rounds, because it's the way he's fighting. He needs to be more active. He needs to be more sharp. He needs to be quicker. He needs to throw more punches, and he needs to look to win rounds rather than going in there and looking to wipe people out. Canelo Alvarez has gotten one-punch knockout power. Maybe not up at the higher weight classes, but he has got power to hurt you. He's shown he's got one-punch knockout power against lesser, smaller guys. But against the real big guys, he hasn't really shown he's got one punch that's going to wipe somebody out. But he has got the kind of power that can break you down and slowly take you out. But again, he needs to look to go back to boxing. He needs to box, move, and when he gets in close, throw punches in bunches as well. You know, not just look to load up on one big shot, an uppercut or a right hand. You know, that's not against these bigger guys. That might not work. You know, so he needs to be more active, in my opinion. Throw more punches, look to win more rounds, be active, and let's see. Let's see if Canelo Alvarez is able to overcome Bivol in the rematch. But I like the fact that Canelo Alvarez wants to go back to Bivol. I like the fact that Canelo Alvarez in 2023 will look to fight Bivol. He will. There's no way Canelo Alvarez, being the competitor he is, going to avoid the Bivol fight. And I think once he goes to the Bivol fight, I think all this stuff about ducking should stop. Because now people are already calling him out and saying he's cherry-picking Golovkin and he's avoiding Bivol. So if he fights Bivol again, I don't want to hear any excuses about any kind of cherry-picking or ducking Benavidez. Because if he goes and fights Bivol again, a guy that's beaten him, he's looking to avenge that loss. So all the nonsense about him ducking this guy and ducking that guy should preferably stop. Because Canelo will go straight back into a fight with someone like Dmitry Bivol. And Bivol for me is stylistically wrong for Canelo. I don't think he's a good fight. I think stylistically Dmitry Bivol is a horrible fight for Canelo Alvarez. I think he's somebody that, in my opinion, that Canelo should probably try to avoid and not go for him. But I think the fact that someone like Dmitry Bivol has beaten him, I think he'll have to go in there for his legacy's sake to fight Bivol again and look to beat him. Otherwise, Canelo Alvarez legacy, look, as Paulie Malignaggi made a great point, when you're at the top and you're being considered as the greatest Mexican fighter of all time, the margin for error is very small, right? You know, as he pointed out, that when Chavez fought Chavez Sr., when he fought Meldrick Taylor, he was losing the fight, but Chavez, you know, put it on him and got the stoppage. Canelo Alvarez, on the other hand, fought Bivol. Did he really go for it at the end? You know, the Mexican fans want to see you go out on your shield. Canelo really didn't do that. Now, these are very small things. These are like nitpicking. You know, it's like finding, it's like, you know, it's like finding a little pebble in a haystack, you know, and trying to look for faults, trying to look for a fault in a perfectly built haystack, trying to look for something that's wrong with it. And that's what I'm doing with Canelo. But when you're being judged, or when you're being held as one of the greatest Mexican fighters or one of the greatest fighters of all time, the margin for error is very small. You know, these little things can stop you from being even greater. So Canelo Alvarez, the fact that he got beat by Bivol, he needs to avenge that loss. Otherwise, the way he got beat, because if you look at the way Canelo's been beat, and again, I'm nitpicking here, because Canelo, like I said, has done a lot in boxing. But at the end of the day, he was badly beaten by Floyd Mayweather, and he was badly beaten by Dmitry Bivol. It wasn't the fact that he lost, it was the way he lost. He was soundly beaten by both those guys. And he was beaten and outboxed savagely in both fights. They weren't close, they weren't competitive. Like, the Bivol fight was competitive in moments, but for majority of it, the vast majority of it, he was comprehensively outboxed. And Canelo needs to prove that he can avenge a loss. And he hasn't done that yet. He obviously didn't get the opportunity with Mayweather. He was never going to get that rematch. But in terms of the Bivol fight, he needs to prove that he can come back from a defeat. Because although I thought he lost the first Golovkin fight, and I thought he won the second Golovkin fight, that for me, he avenged the loss. But technically on paper, he didn't avenge it. And from a mental point of view, he didn't lose the fight, because on paper, he didn't lose the fight. So to him, it wasn't a loss because on paper it was a draw. This fight he's actually lost. The judges have gone against him and he's actually lost this fight. So the point I'm trying to make is he's actually have to come back and avenge this guy. And this is a style. See, the Golovkin fights were always going to be close because that was stylistically, the Golovkin fight is a fight where, although I think Golovkin is a stylistic problem for him, I don't think it's as much of a stylistic problem as Bivol is for him. And Bivol beat Canelo a lot more conclusively than anything Golovkin did. So this is a much, much tougher fight for Canelo. So I want to see if Canelo can make the correct adjustments in the rematch. And this is why I've said openly, if Canelo can overcome this fight against Dmitry Bivol, my estimation of Canelo Alvarez will go through the roof, because I actually think now this is a stylistic nightmare for him. And I'm not sure he can beat Dmitry Bivol. I'm having my doubts whether he can beat Dmitry Bivol. So this is what I mean. If he is able to overcome Dmitry Bivol, my estimations of Canelo Alvarez go through the roof as a fighter. But again, I do want to see him come back and avenge a loss like this. I wouldn't want him to not avenge a loss because I think it hurts his legacy. Because people want to see you come back from defeat. People want to see you come back from adversity and see how you do when you're under pressure, when you've lost a fight. How do you react when someone's stylistically not the right fight for you? How are you able to overcome that and beat him? And that's what people want to see. So people want to see Canelo Alvarez come back from defeat and beat someone like Dmitry Bivol. And I'm glad that Canelo Alvarez will look to fight Dmitry Bivol in 2023. But yeah, let's see if it does materialize. At the end of the day, at the minute, it's words from Eddie Hearn. But I do think Canelo Alvarez will opt to take that rematch. It makes a lot of sense. And it'll make a lot of dollars. It'll make a lot of sense for DAZN as well. And also from a Canelo legacy point of view, he'd want to correct that wrong in his opinion. He'd want to avenge that loss, which, you know, is definitely must be a thorn in his side because Canelo Alvarez is not used to losing. But yeah, leave your thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. And leave your thoughts and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.